Hello, everyone. Welcome back again. This is Cureton, Senior Journalist for XR Today, bringing you always the latest and greatest from the VR, AR, and XR industry. So today we have an amazing guest, as always, a regular and a favorite with the XR community, Kevin O'Donovan. He is the VRARA co-chair of Industrial Metaverse and Digital Twins. He will be joining us today to have a fireside chat about the Industrial Metaverse speciality. So welcome on, Kevin. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. No, I'm delighted. It's an interesting topic and never a dull moment these days.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much going on in the space. So yeah, we're going to kick off. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we didn't get a chance to touch up on with the big news show. We're going to look at one of the articles, Digital Twins Automation Crucial to Realize Industrial Metaverse, Siemens says. We spoke to them at the Enterprise Metaverse Summit that took place in London last month. And there was a lot of interesting information about that. Actually, it was late June, so correct myself on that. So with this article that we saw here, could you tell me a little bit about what you've been following with Siemens? What's been taking place with them and the industrial metaverse?
So for transparency, I've been collaborating with Siemens for the past 4 or 5 years. And for folks that will know Siemens, obviously one of worldwide leaders in industrial automation, in energy systems, in healthcare products, you name it, right? Siemens is a big company. But Siemens have been talking about physical meets digital for probably 5-8 years. And to be quite honest, what they've been talking about is digitizing industries and bringing digitalization technologies. And obviously what a lot of that has led to over the past couple of years has been digital twins, right? So Siemens today, or with years, you'll get a design tools, SimCenter and INX and all sorts of different automation software tools. So if you're designing a factory, you can design your factory in a 3D model. And Siemens have been doing that for years. And obviously they have IoT systems and grid modeling software and. But it's now just over a year ago that Siemens obviously made a big announcement around their accelerator strategy, and where they were looking to partner up in a more structured way with many other of their existing partners, new partners and whatever, of creating this interoperability, if you like, because everybody is well aware that if you want to do digitalization of factories, grids, industry, you can't do it all your own, right? You have to mix and match with various partners. And as part of that, they also announced the industrial metaverse. And that has been a key strategic imperative for Siemens for the past 12 months. Obviously, you met with some of the Siemens folks at the Economist Metaverse, Enterprise Metaverse Summit in London. Siemens were there talking about the industrial metaverse. Folks may have seen about a month ago, Siemens made a big announcement of about $2 billion in some new factory in Singapore. Again, completely automated industrial metaverse factory. They also announced a 500 million euro investment in Erlangen, just north of Nuremberg, which is one of their big campuses, where they're building a new technology research center for automation, for digital twins, for the industrial metaverse, to take it to the next level. So I've been collaborating with them. I'm actually going to visit their Erlangen. They opened the new industrial metaverse experience center there last week, the Impact. So I'm going visiting that later this week down there. So Siemens have been doing a lot of this stuff for many years, but obviously in the last 12 months, we've seen them talk about the industrial metaverse, and not just them, right? NVIDIA, Nokia, pick any system integrator. If you're at Hannover Messe, everyone's talking about digital twins, generative AI, bringing it all together, creating the next, we've been talking about Industry 4.0 for many years, but that's where it's headed.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been following quite a bit of what's been taking place with digital twins over the last 2 years. And, it was kind of like when I first started working, it was growing and growing in popularity, and now it's just spiked because, the industrial metaverse is, of course, now becoming a very fast growing vertical for the, applications and use cases for, XR technologies. So for you, we talk a little bit about the digital twin. What do you think is the actual value of digital twins to industries?
So I suppose the first thing I would say is that it depends on how you define a digital twin. And many folks in the industry will say, look, digital twins aren't new. At its basic level, a digital twin is a digital representation of something in the real world. Now, that could be a 3D CAD model. It could be I'm getting real-time data from my IoT systems and I have real-time data in a graphical user interface. That's a digital twin of my current production. And you could look back and say, well, everything we've been doing, everything we've digitalized over the past 30, 40 years in any industry, be that an ERP system, whether it's SAP or Oracle or IBM or whatever, you could say, well, okay, it's all numbers and it's all static screens and whatever, but that's a digital representation of your supply chain, of your inventory, of your sales, of your products, of your shipments. So digital twin is not new. But I think what we're seeing is that given the advancements in core technologies, now be that from the likes of Intel, AMD, ARM, NVIDIA, you name it, in terms of bringing more and more compute, more and more graphics, more and more AI capabilities, we're now able to, I suppose, take more and more data from the real world, create more and more digital twin in by pulling in data from multiple data silos. One of the things I would say to folks when I work with a company would be, have you got a digital twin? And the answer is probably they've got about 10 or 15 of them, right? But they're all in different silos. They're in different applications and they don't talk to each other. What we're now seeing is, if you like, the next generation of digital twin technology, and whether that's the existing software that you have from whether you're, Bentley Systems or Dassault Systems, or you're from Siemens, ABB, Yokogawa, pick a company. They're all adding more and more capabilities to have better simulation capabilities, better generative AI to generate synthetic data so you can do more simulations and more what-if scenario planning, getting more data from real-time IoT systems. But we're starting to see that pulling data together from multiple different siloed digital twins. And that's where things like NVIDIA's Omniverse or Bentley iCloud and what Siemens are doing with many of their partners is that we need to pull data from different sources. And then you get this kind of the next generation of a digital twin that's striving to give you a holistic view of everything in a digital format with 3D spatial interfaces, if you like. So I can actually, now get capabilities to do what if scenario planning around my business resiliency, about my maintenance, about what's a better way to lay out, to optimize my whatever it is, whether it's a grid, whether it's a factory, whether it's how I design a product, how I design it to be able to recycle it later. These capabilities, to me, it's like digitalization on steroids. And obviously, in our world, we like coming up with new terms. We had embedded business for many years. We then called it the Industrial Internet of Things, IIoT. And now Metaverse is kind of the if you like, the next game in town in terms, especially in the industrial metaverse. And that's made up of digital twins being the foundational building block. But then, you speak about XR, VR, AR, we talk about generative AI, pick a technology, 5G networks and private networks in factories to get all the data going around, the latest in edge computing from Intel, AMD, NVIDIA. You start bringing all this together, and we're now at a stage where we're taking digital twins to the next level. And what I say to people is that, look, digital twins mean different things to different people. And I think some of the great stuff that's happening there with the Digital Twin Consortium, folks like Unity, you're starting to see digital twin maturity models. Now, we could spend the next, 2 hours talking about whether the Digital Twin Consortium's periodic table of 63 characteristics of a digital twin are they all correct, or do we argue about this? But these frameworks are giving people a way to kind of at least level set amongst themselves in terms of, well, when we say digital twin, what do you mean? And then based on the type of digital twin you have today, what problem does it solve for you today? Or what problem are you trying to solve? Because as cool as the technology is, Damon, we're going to have, it comes back to the technology has to either make you more money, save you money, or increase your efficiency. Otherwise, there's no point doing it, right? It's only a nice to have.
Absolutely. And, they're finding these different use cases more valuable. So, for example, automating a facility, knowing when things are, working and functioning properly, or potentially, there's a fault. They're even actually taking these digital twins. Like I remember GE Digital was actually working with bridges that they were developing in the United States and other parts, where they could look at it over time and find out how to develop better bridges that degraded slower or had better engineering quality. So there's a lot of different kind of things people can do with these digital twins that allow professionals to leverage the metaverse. And I guess now they're beginning to gravitate more towards the term metaverse. Now that people are understanding that it's not just about entering digital concerts and playing games with friends like the Facebook social media metaverse, where people now see that there's a lot of real value in everyday operations.
No, I agreed. And if I may build on that, again, people would say, but, Kev, digital twins are not new. We've had them for years. And yeah, you have, but we're taking them to the next level. But we're taking them to the next level in that you now have a platform, an immersive experience. Now, that doesn't mean you're in VR or XR. You may be looking at a 3D model of your factory with all the real-time data flying around and telling you what's going on, and you can start reconfiguring things. And if I take that order for another 10%, can I up production based on the real-time data coming from the current production line? Is anything going to break? Do I need to do any predictive maintenance before I speed it up or whatever, or add another shift? But it's also that the two of us could be in different parts of the world and we can now collaborate within that environment, right? So it's not that we're both looking at two SAP screens. You're actually in an immersive environment. So you can do all sorts of, the way we collaborate on things is not just Zoom calls or Teams calls anymore. You're in there. People can understand. We've had the data for years in terms of if you're trained in a more immersive way, stuff sticks, right? We live in an immersive world, right? So as long as we start using all of these technologies and what do you call it? Industry 4.0, the industrial metaverse, the next phase of digitalization. It really is the only game in town, because if you want to stay competitive today, either as a company, an industry, or a country, where we're headed with automation, with design everything in a digital world before you build it, adds to your sustainability story. Design it many times, build it once. How do I build it so I can recycle stuff later? And for me, in the energy industry, where I see the the perfect storm and all the new infrastructure that's being built out for the energy transition, be that battery gigafactories, be that new car electric vehicle factories, be that planning new grids, new wind farms, new hydrogen plants, new carbon capture, everything is now being done in a digital twin model. So they can game out, plan everything before anybody decides to start physically building something. So to me, that's kind of the poster child right now of where this is headed. But if you're an existing factory and you've got equipment for the last 10, 15 years and you're working away, your first step on that journey might be that you put in all the IoT stuff and now you're getting real-time data so you can do predictive maintenance. But that's the journey we're all on, right? It is fascinating times. But look, we'll be arguing about what's a digital twin and my digital twin is better than your digital twin. But this is the only show in town right now, so people should not ignore this stuff.
Definitely. I agree with you on that wholeheartedly, for the simple reason that, we've already been seeing return on investment. That's been the big buzzword that, people have been talking about when it comes to digital twins, the metaverse, things of that nature. Lenovo has spoken quite a bit about it as well, where they talk about, how do these products create return on investment. And this is, with digital twins, especially the industrial metaverse, that's going to be one of the fastest growing verticals for achieving that. So I think that, people should definitely look into that space. I've always been a proponent of the enterprise will adopt the metaverse long before, the everyday user does.
It's happening already, right? Or it's happening in front of our eyes. People just aren't, we're probably not aware of it as much, but every bit of digitalization is building the industrial metaverse as we speak, right? But you bring up a key point, right? Let's face it, people run businesses based on economic criteria, right? It's not that they're just, hey, let's get all the cool technology and we'll see what we can do with it. There's got to be a business case. There's got to be an ROI. There's got to be, what problem are we trying to solve? These technologies can help that. But, I have yet to find any company that's going, oh, we're going to go into the industrial metaverse. Why? Because we think it's cool, and we have endless money. It doesn't work like that. So there's got to be an ROI, right?
Definitely. Speaking of which, I was going to actually segue briefly over to one of the topics we had about the 4 pillars of the enterprise metaverse. Since we're on the subject of the industrial and the enterprise metaverse, PricewaterhouseCoopers has created a fantastic kind of outline of these 4 different qualities. And I wanted to know, what did you think about those 4 things that they had selected for that? And do they resonate well with, I guess, the way the industrial metaverse is developing now?
So I think they do. Now again, if I may, the PwC, they have their 4 pillars. There's employee experience, training, client experience, metaverse adoption. So in some cases, they're the key performance indicators. And like anybody in any industry or any business, if I want to invest in something, well, what's my return of investment? And then how do I measure that? So whether that is, have I happier employees? Do they find the collaboration using some metaverse technologies a better way to collaborate? So that's a way of measuring it. So that the PwC 4 pillars, they're as good as anybody else's. Now, if you go to other companies, they may have other methodologies on how they, if you look back to digitalization, right? There are different ways people measure how successful was your digitalization project in your company or in your city or in your country. But you have to have some key performance indicators. You have to have some way of knowing what success looks like. So you set some goals. So in terms of employee experience, training, client experience, adoption of the technologies, these are as good as any, but provided the company that's using them has set them down. And, that's the goal that everyone gets out of bed in the morning for. And it's not that they're, listening to people like me talking about, oh, look at this cool new technology. You really need to use it. If it doesn't help their client experience or it doesn't help their employee experience, they've got to ask the question, well, why would we do this? As cool as the technology is, right? It makes no sense. So in terms of what PwC are up to, hey, it's a good framework in terms of, well, how will we in our company justify doing this? What is the return of investment for us? Is it employees? Is it more business? Is it better maintenance? Whatever. It's got to be a bottom line, for want of a better word, right? So, and I think that's key. And what we're seeing is that in industry, it's not often that industry just installs technology because it's cool. They've got to have an ROI. So I think that's one of the key drivers why the industrial metaverse is not going away, because digitalization is the only game in town. Digital twins, better resiliency, more simulation, more what-if scenarios, real-time what if planning. That's where we're headed. So, and the only reason they will invest in any technology, and be that Siemens or be that Nokia or be that Nvidia or whatever, they all have their ROIs. And people in business today are seeing that. So that's why I'm very optimistic about how the industrial metaverse is going to keep ramping up in across industries, right? For all sorts of reasons. But there's an ROI there.
Definitely, yeah, and I think that as they gain those insights into the products that they develop using the digital twins, we're going to see more complex systems developed in the physical world too, because it's a great way for us to test pilot a lot of in the industry. I mean, in the energy sector, how well a power grid can operate if they decide to scale things up to create more like electric vehicles, and that would be one great simulation they can use. Another one, how well will wind turbines perform in a specific location compared to another one? And so these are insights that we didn't have when we were just blindly kind of placing things using the measures of the physical world. We could actually simulate that before deploying those things out there. And that actually, plays into a lot of sustainable development goals, because now you're using fewer resources, physical resources, in order to create your products. Things are done right on the first try rather than making mistakes and doing it 2 or 3 times, sometimes 5 times in the real world.
Agreed. And again, I'd often have chats with folks in the industry, and they'd say, "But Kev, we've been doing that for years. We don't just kind of build a wind farm and hope it'll work." And I agree. There's a lot of experience and competence in people's heads, and there are Excel models and simulations and all sorts that go into this, right? Where do you put the mooring lines for floating offshore wind and they don't crash into it, blah blah blah. So that's all done. But a lot of it was, let's say, we didn't have the compute or the algorithms or the AI to generate more synthetic data and just run. We'd run 10 simulations, and some of them were paper based. Now you can run hundreds of thousands of simulations. What if the tide changes? What happens with climate? Look at the way the climate is acting these days. What happens if the temperature increases? What if we get a 1 in 100-year storm? So you can start all of this modeling, and your point on electric vehicles. Almost every utility on the planet today has software where they design their grid, their distribution grid, the stuff that goes down to our homes. And they're all having to game out today with simulation software, depending on where they are. Well, what happens if another 10 people plug in an electric vehicle on this feeder line? What's that going to do to the substation? All that simulation is being done today. Again, some of it is more advanced than others, but this stuff is happening. So this is why I keep saying, what PwC are up to, what Siemens, what NVIDIA, Nokia, many, many more. Don't ignore this stuff, right? We all talk about Apple and the spatial computing and Meta with their Quest 2 and what's happening with the Pro and Decentraland and blah, 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 blah. But guys, the real story is over happening in industry and enterprise. So keep an eye on it. It ain't going away.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much. I really enjoy these types of conversations, and I know we'll hopefully have more in the future, because this is where I really want to kind of hone in a lot of the conversations about the metaverse or about XR in general. How it's actually going to adapt across multiple industry verticals, including entertainment, where more people get exposure to it, which I've already been seeing with some of the immersive concerts. I think the Super Bowl this year had the first XR concert, and I think they were Shawati was performing for that. But even though that's a more consumer-facing side, we're going to see a lot more in the industry where people can use these. So thanks so much, Kevin. I really appreciate your time and your insights on that.
Thanks a lot.
So once again,
take care.
Speaking to Kevin O'Donovan.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Okay. Yeah, you too. Once again, I've been speaking to Kevin O'Donovan, VRARA co-chair of the Industrial Metaverse and Digital Twins. And my name is Cureton, Senior Journalist for XR Today. Thanks so much for joining. And if you want to follow more conversations like this, please join us at the XR News hashtag on Twitter and LinkedIn. I guess Twitter is still a thing, and now it's the X. Anyways, thanks so much. Until next time, see you later, guys.